From viral YouTubers to horror auteurs, after Talk To Me, could they actually do it again? With Bring Her Back, the answer is unsettling. Smash that like button and subscribe, offer your engagement to the algorithm gods so they don't bring you back. Bring Her Back centers on a grieving mother who turns to unconventional and supernatural means to reconnect with her deceased daughter. What begins as a desperate search for closure spirals into a haunting examination of guilt, control, and the deep ache of loss. As the line between reality and possession blurs, the film slowly peels back layers of trauma until it reaches its chilling, inevitable conclusion. This is directed by Danny and Michael Philippou, YouTube's Raka Raka, and their previous film was Talk To Me, and I found it to be one of the best horror films of that year that it came out. I did have issues with the ending, but overall the atmosphere, jump scares, the characters, even the characters who are teenagers just having fun with this haunted hand. It was like realistic and likable, and it had some pretty haunting imagery in it as well. It was definitely not what I was expecting from the YouTuber to director pipeline. So I made it a purpose to not watch anything on this movie, no trailers or anything. So I went in completely blind, and I went in through the Scream Unseen at AMC. So it was like an early screening, so it made me feel a little special. It stars Sally Hawkins as the grieving mother whose daughter drowned, and she's bringing unconventional means of bringing her back. She already has this kid that she's adopted apparently, who is acting kind of weird. This coincides with a brother and sister who are just step siblings whose father died. The daughter is blind, and the brother gonna leave her alone. So they both go to Sally Hawkins' house. What this leads to is like a satanic ritual where she is trying to bring her daughter back, who was also blind. So what did I think of Bring Her Back? And I will say that the Philippous, I think I'm saying their names right, they again deliver great characters, realistic characters, especially Sally Hawkins, someone who's both kind of chilling and heartbreaking. The shit she does is fucking evil, and she's manipulative, but you can see the loss, what it's done to her. Sally Hawkins is an extraordinary actress, and she pulls this off phenomenally, and she owns absolutely every scene. I can see how she's manipulative. She's warming up to the kids she adopted, and I was warming up to her too as she shows her vulnerability to them. But of course, that's a means to an end. Now, this is quite a bit different than Talk To Me. It is not what I would say scary, but it uses dread over jump scares. The tone feels more like the Babadook than the Conjuring. So if you're expecting Talk To Me, do not go into this expecting Talk To Me. This is actually very much more a drama than it is a horror movie. Don't get me wrong. There's a ton of horror in it, and there's some horrific imagery in it. But it really does lean into the drama of this story. And that's not to say there's no gore in it. There are some effective gore in this. It's almost like a visceral body horror. Just expect to cringe a lot in this. You know, if someone eating a melon with a knife like this has you on the edge of your seat, then you might be covering your eyes. I've seen a lot of stuff, and there's some shit that happens in this movie that kind of just made my skin crawl and made me just physically wince all over my body. The children actors are fantastic in it. Billy Barrett as Andy is the protective older brother to Piper, played by the visually impaired actress Sora Wong, as well as the extraordinary performance from Jonah Wren Phillips, who I know from the Netflix series Sweet Tooth. And it is a slow burn, so that's why I say if you're into Talk To Me wasn't as much of a slow burn, but this film is, and that's part of it leaning into the drama aspect of it. But don't worry, the payoff is remarkable in a lot of these scenes. It definitely brings the horror to this drama. And it actually surprised me, someone who's always predicting what's going to happen in a movie. You basically know what the plot is. They show like a ritual at the very beginning, like the cold open. It is a slow pace to get to that in the story, but I don't mind that. I don't mind a slow burn. But it does have that dread, which is essential in a horror film, a great horror film, in my opinion. And a lot of the character fates, like, I was not expecting at all. So for a film like this to even surprise me, who watches horror movies all the time, it's awesome, really. With that said, it really depends on who's watching it. If you're expecting Talk to Me, don't. It's a very different film, even though I very much think it's worth watching. The slower pacing might alienate some viewers from the more traditional horror rhythm, but I wouldn't let that sway you from watching this. And it is a possession movie, and the angle is underplayed in favor of some more of the emotional fallout. It's one thing I was hoping for, and maybe it's a good thing. Like, the whole possession angle. She's watching these tapes of people transferring one soul to another body. And I wanted to see more of that, but with certain movies, that means they're doing something good if you're wanting more of something. And I was not expecting where it was going towards the end. I was expecting some sort of more frightening final act like Hereditary that just goes balls to the wall, but it doesn't do that. It stays with the same tone. If it's its own thing. So it's not Hereditary, it's not Talk to Me, but I came out of the movie not really scared. I came out pretty sad. And it's tragic, really, what happens in this film. And not all horror movies need to be scary, but there is some disturbing imagery. There are some fates that kind of stick with me, and this movie did stick with me. And seeing some of the behind the scenes stuff, Sally Hawkins, she actually signed on after praising Talk to Me in interviews. And apparently the Phillips brothers wanted a louder finale, but were convinced by Hawkins to lean into the grief of the final act of the film. And I think it works, I do. So I would give Bring Her Back 4 out of 5 stars. It might not be as punchy or instantly terrifying as Talk to Me, but it's much more mature, more tragic, more emotionally haunting. It's the kind of film that kind of lingers like grief itself. It's a very effective horror film, and very effective in showing that the Phillips brothers are already maturing with their second film. Of course, I'm going to be watching anything they do from now on.
We can bring her back.
But what did you think of Bring Her Back? Are you looking forward to it? Have you seen it? What do you think of Talk to Me? What do you think of the Phillips brothers? Let me know down in the comments below. Make sure to hit like to appease the algorithm gods. And if you liked this review, maybe subscribe and help me get to 500 eventually. One of these days. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you later. Bye.